Warning, this video contains spoilers for the Five Nights at Freddy's series. Viewer discretion is advised. Hi, I'm Dr. Dex, bringing you another FNAF theory due to popular demand. Today we'll be discussing Michael Afton and the guilt he carries over killing his own brother. We explore the meaning of the phrase, "I will put you back together." We'll uncover what became of the crying child after his death in FNAF 4, and I just might convince you that Golden Freddy does not exist.
Well, technically none of it exists. It's the basic premise of fiction.
Save it for the comment section, Diana. What are you doing here anyway? This is not a Hitman video.
Well, you wouldn't stop banging on about this furry robot murder mystery, so if I help you solve it we can get back to murdering innocent people. In video games, of course.
Fair enough.
For now.
This is the first part of what I like to call the Afton family reunion. Today's story is about two brothers.
It's just called Two Brothers.
Sorry, I couldn't resist. Michael Afton and, the crying child. They are the sons of the purple guy, William Afton. Their father is a serial killer with an evil lair built underneath his house. On top of that, he's extremely neglectful as he constantly leaves his children unattended. Needless to say, it's the perfect foundation for a troublesome childhood. We see all of this play out in FNAF 4's minigame. Michael keeps scaring his little brother with a foxy mask because it's never too early to develop an anxiety disorder. Though traumatizing your siblings is all fun and games until one of them gets crushed by an animatronic bear on their own birthday party.
It's more common than you would think.
Michael Afton learned this the hard way in 1983, and this event will haunt him for the rest of his life. He has murdered his brother. What he doesn't know is that his father vowed to put his family back together. William Afton had lost his wife, his daughter, and now his youngest son. Though he might know of a way to bring them back, immortalize them in his own twisted way. We have seen that Afton is well aware that the souls of his victims haunt the animatronics, though he doesn't know exactly why, and neither do we for that matter. My current theory is that it has something to do with electricity and the cause of death. FNAF 6 shows us the puppet shorting out and collapsing on top of the first victim, giving it life. It would explain why Afton's lair and sister location has built-in systems to electrocute the animatronics.
Let's zap her. That should be fun.
This underground base hides a lot more than exotic butters and casual bongos though. Because this is where William put his family back together. His daughter Circus Baby, his wife Ballora, and the crying child reborn as Funtime Freddy.
Hang on, I thought the crying child was Golden Freddy.
Glad you were paying attention, but trust me, we'll get to that.
Alright, so how do we know Funtime Freddy is the crying child?
Well, just listen to what he has to say when his brother Michael comes to visit.
Hey, Bonbon! I think that's the birthday boy over there! We should go give him a surprise!
Fun fact, this is the voice actor's favorite line, and we might have found out why. Then look at Funtime Freddy's jump scare. Its face split wide open, mirroring Crying Child's gruesome death. But there's one more beautiful detail. William created a counterpart to Funtime Freddy, and it just so happens to be Michael's favorite animatronic. Funtime Foxy, a vessel to host Michael's soul if he were to die as well.
It's kind of sweet. In a psychotic way.
The phrase, "I will put you back together," really is the through line of this story. William Afton desperately trying to bring his family back from the dead, and in a way, he succeeded. Michael finds out what became of his family in sister location. Going by the name Eggs Benedict, he slowly gets reintroduced to his family members. After messing with Mike for a couple of days, they take being put back together even further, as all of the animatronics combine into one twisted mess called Ennard. Then they manage to lure Michael into the scooping room like it's an opportunity in Hitman. With very similar results because those rascals turn on the scooping machine the room was named after. Mike gets all of its insides removed, and they take being put back together to the logical extreme. By wearing Michael like a suit, of course.
If I didn't know any better, I would have thought you were making it up as you went along.
And I wouldn't blame you. This goes well for about a week, after which Michael's corpse starts to decay and turn purple. Which does not mean he's the purple guy, settle down. Then his family abandons him by jetting off into the sewers. We don't know where they went, but they do split up before FNAF 6. Probably due to creative differences. Michael slumps onto the sidewalk, a rotting carcass. Though miraculously he survives, gets up, and stumbles on in search of his father. Lore-wise, I think it's Michael's remnant soul that lingers inside of his own corpse. Much like the Afton family haunts the sister location animatronics, the missing children are in the FNAF 1 crew, and Purple Guy's soul is in Springtrap. Though it might also just be a nod to Cain and Abel from the Bible. Because for those of you who didn't know, Scott Cawthon is a very religious man. At the end of Sister Location, Michael vows to find his father, and he does so by following the murders. First, he works one night at the FNAF 2 location in 1987. Phone Guy told us there has been another incident involving a killer wearing a yellow suit, so at least we can establish that all of these events took place before or during 1987. Michael gets fired on his first day for tampering with the animatronics and smelling like a corpse. At the end of the game, the toy animatronics are scrapped and they prepare to reopen the original restaurant. This lines up with what we see in FNAF 3. Purple Guy returns to the restaurant before it gets remodeled. At this point, the place is run down. It was left to rot after the original missing children incident. The safe room will be boarded up as we hear in Phone Guy's final tape. It would be the perfect place to hide the evidence. No cameras or animatronic access. But he needs to move fast. William succeeds in dismantling the animatronics, but the spirits held within manifest themselves and scare William into his suit. The water leaking through the ceiling loosens the spring locks and he gets mangled inside of the costume, thus becoming Springtrap. Like with the others, William isn't physically alive inside of the suit, his spirit just haunts the twisted remains. The safe room gets sealed and the place gets a fresh coat of paint for FNAF 1. Which brings us back to Mike in his quest to find his father, who to the outside world seems to have disappeared into thin air. This must have been a very frustrating journey for Michael, with no further leads to go on. It's kind of like the fanbase in between FNAF games.
That's a fun tongue twister.
Then in 1993, 10 years after Michael killed his brother, he sees Freddy Fazbear's Pizza has reopened once again. And wouldn't you know it, they are looking for a new night guard. Now, Michael Afton is probably legally declared dead, and his last persona got fired after a single day of work. So he comes up with a new name. It's the OG protagonist of FNAF, the man, the myth, the legend, the one and only Mike Schmidt. Here in FNAF 1, he meets the victims of the missing children incident, and they are out for blood. Now, several games and novels later, we finally know why, because we are told that Michael looks exactly like his father. Though that doesn't explain why they killed Phone Guy. I guess the animatronics jumped to the same conclusion as we did.
Poor Phone Guy just can't catch a break, can he?
It seems he really can't. I feel kinda bad for him. Now, remember when I said that Crying Child became Funtime Freddy instead of Golden Freddy?
Yeah, it was like 5 minutes ago. Give the viewers some credit.
Hey, I just like to give people a minute to think about a question before answering it.
Fine, explain the deal with Golden Freddy then.
It's simple. Golden Freddy is not real. He's a manifestation of Michael's guilt, and that's not much of a stretch. Think about all of Golden Freddy's appearances. He's always been some kind of apparition that just fades in and out of reality. It doesn't follow any rhyme or reason because he's not really there. It's all in Michael's head. It takes the form of a golden bear because of that traumatic birthday in FNAF 4. He also sees his brother's face plastered across the walls. Mike is clearly not coping well, and whenever his greatest fear catches up with him, the game crashes. It's instantly over.
Those were some surprisingly compelling arguments.
Thanks, Diana. All of this lines up perfectly except for one tiny detail in FNAF 2. Golden Freddy first appears in Night 6, again seeming to lack any regards for the laws of time and space, appearing as a giant gaping head at the end of a dark corridor. It's all very nice and symbolic. There's one small issue though.
Oh, I see. We don't play as Michael in Night 6.
Exactly. Poor Jeremy Fitzgerald is still working during the 6th night. and he probably never even heard of the Aftons. It makes sense that Golden Freddy would appear in the custom night because that's where Mike starts his quest to find his father.
So how are you going to justify this inconsistency?
Well, I think we've run into the problem that has plagued many FNAF theorists. Too many conflicting details. Because let's get real for a moment, when Scott made FNAF 1, 2, or even 3, he did not have the entire story set in stone. He probably had some key points in mind, but the details could have been changed along the way. No story comes out fully formed, even these theories are subject to a lot of tweaking and rewrites. So I think we're dealing with a retcon. Where retcon stands for retroactive continuity, it's basically changing something in hindsight to make the story flow better. Consider it a narrative patch. For an example in FNAF, look at the puppet story. At first, everything seemed to point towards the crying child being the puppet. Streams of tears, similar designs, all that jazz. But then in FNAF 6 we learned that the puppet was Henry's daughter. Was this intended all along? Well, I doubt it because up to that point there was no evidence to support that claim. William Afton lacked a name and Henry was never mentioned until the books. Needless to say, Scott is no stranger to retcons, and that's not a bad thing. He just wants to tell a good story that fits together, and if old ideas don't gel with new ones, you just have to adjust things. Now, I think Golden Freddy used to be the remnant of Crying Child, a spirit that haunts the pizzeria that cost him his life. Though things probably changed when FNAF 4 came around, which gave us the phrase, "I will put you back together." We can now safely assume that these words are spoken by William the Purple Guy Afton himself. At first it seemed he was talking about his youngest son, who was just hospitalized after the accident in 1983. Though the pronoun you could also refer to a group of people in this context. Let's say One Direction splits up and their manager says, "I will put you back together," as in getting the band back together. Or in William's case, his dead family. Baby, Ballora, and Funtime Freddy are the Aftons put back together. Not only reconstructed, but reunited as well. It all fits perfectly except for the golden bear in the room, which could be retconned into a figment of Michael's imagination. Everything aligns with this one phrase, "I will put you back together," except for that one night, one small detail in a much older version of the same story. Personally, this is one inconsistency that I can look past. The whole idea of the Aftons didn't even exist before FNAF 4. I mean, we can't expect everything to line up perfectly. Scott is only human after all, and if there's one thing we excel at, it's making mistakes.
Humans are the best at being the worst.
That we are. It's why it takes me eons to make these videos. And because I didn't want to leave you hanging for half a year, we'll end this part right here.
But what about the cutscene at the end of Sister Location? Who do we play as in the pizzeria simulator?
Well, stick around for the next part to find out, because next time we see the thrilling conclusion of the Afton family reunion. Trust me, by the end of this, we will put them back together. Until then, you can watch the FNAF theory I did in December. People seem to enjoy it, which is why I decided to share more of my crazy ideas. I don't want to force these theory videos though. I will only do a video if I have a compelling new insight on the story. So don't expect weekly theories until I'm uncovering the origins of the cupcake. As always, this is just a theory based on my own interpretations. I try to back them up with as much evidence as I can muster and poke holes where I can see them. Whether you agree or disagree, I at least hope you enjoyed the video. Keep an eye out for part 2, which is easier if you subscribe to the channel. Liking the video if you enjoyed it also motivates me to get off my lazy ass. So that sounds like a win-win to me. Anyway, thank you all very much for watching, and have a good one.
Coming soon. You haven't even finished the script yet, you hack. Make that coming eventually.
Yes, dear.